Hi, my name is Damilari, and you're welcome back to the Human Resource in Practice program. I'll be a facilitator for this module, the Training, Learning, and Development module. And in this module, we are going to be talking about uh, the process, the training process. We will summarize the process and the purpose of employee training and orientation. We are going to be explaining the steps, the first steps of the training process. We are going to be describing and illustrating how you would identify training requirements. We're also going to be distinguishing between the problems you can fix with training and the ones you cannot. We're also going to be looking at the five training techniques, while as HR practitioners, we are going to be looking at how to design a training program. All right, the training process. Before we can talk about training, learning, and development, we need to first of all understand what training is. Training is the process of teaching new employees the basic skill they need to perform their job. Take this as a form of orientation, as a welcome program for new employees. I'm sure if we all remember vividly, when we were admitted into our secondary schools or probably universities or polytechnic, as the case may be, during our undergraduate days, you will be taken around the school, the department, the student affairs will be showing you the different places they think or they expect you to know in the school. So I remember when I was in secondary school, that was done for us. There was a teacher that was assigned to us to take us around the school, showing us different monuments and different things that we need to know about the school. And so that is like our induction into the school. So also that is the same way that training is for employees or for new employees. Now, it gives them the opportunity to brush up the skills that they need. So we might say, don't we see the job call? Did we not know that the training, the skills required for the training is there? It means that for me to get the job, I must have had the skills already. Yes, it is. You must have had the skills. But your skill as a whole is not usable in an organization until when you are trained on how to use it. I will use this as an example. As somebody who studied accounting in school and is vying to get a job in a bank. Now, what is taught in school in the accounting department is different from what she will be doing in the bank. Do you understand? So training is like the practical application of what you have learned, the practical application of the skills that you have learned on the particular job you are applying for. And you may be shocked to know that there are different there are different organizations, even though they are in the same industries, the way a particular skill is applied in the organization can differ. So the training is like orientation process that inducts the employee into the organization. Training is also a hallmark of good management. I've seen some organizations that they get employees, they recruit them, and after the onboarding process, which in most times is just get to know our culture, get to know our rules, get to know our policies. That is all. They do not do anything as regards the training to for the employees to understand, okay, this is the job you will be doing, and this is what we need you to do. This is how we do it here. So if you are coming from somewhere and you have been doing that work in a particular way, in this our organization, this is the way we do it. It is different. So it shows that the management team has a good heart in making sure that employees that are coming to the company are able to perform well. So it shows the hallmark of a good management for the organization. It also reduces the employer's exposure to negligent training liability. What does that mean? Training reduces the the baggages that employees may be coming with. So, like I said, you are coming from somewhere. This is how you do your work. This is how you do your job. Now, when you get to a new organization, that is gone. Whatever experience, whatever process, whatever system that you are using where you are coming from is outside the door. The moment you enter into another organization, you are supposed to come in with a fresh mind. So training helps the employer to reduce dealing with that excess luggage, because in some cases the employee might say, okay, I was not told, this is the way I used to do it where I was coming from, and then I think that since we're in the same industry, since it's the same role, I think that that's the way I should continue to do it here. So it is different. Their organizations are different from each other. Also, the training strategic context. The aim of a company's training program must make sense in terms of the company's strategic goals. So we all know about company's visions, company missions, the plans, the values, and all that. But the training process is like a vehicle, is one of the vehicle that carries the organization through the employee from the point that they are to where they want to be. So if the organization has a plan to say we want to be the biggest in the industry by the end of the year, the organization needs to let the employee know these are the things you need to carry out. These are the things you need to do for us to be able to reach that goal at the end of the year. So training is an important part of an organization's strategic plan to be able to carry, for the employees to be able to carry the organization to the point where the organization intends to reach. Also, training can foster employee learning, which results in enhanced organization performance. So, like we have said, if the organization wants to reach a particular goal, if the employee does not know how, or if the employee does not have the ability to be able to carry the organization to the destination the organization is willing to reach, then it becomes a problem. And training is the vehicle that the organization can reach that goal. So it helps the employee to learn the new skills they need to develop, the new tasks they need to do to be able to get to the point where the organization is intending to go. All right. What is the importance of training? Why do we need to train? You have the skill. It is on the job call. When I was making the job call, I only need you to come and then get to work. Why do I need to train you? It is not my responsibility to teach you your job. If you say you have studied it, you already know about it. So, what is the importance of training? Is it even necessary at all? One, there are opportunities and there are challenges in the workplace. Every day, employees face different challenges. Every day, there are various opportunities that present themselves. Every day, there are circumstances, there are scenarios that comes out, that plays out, that the employee needs to adapt to. So the ability to learn, whether formally or informally, is important for the employee. So that training, whether it is done in a formal way or it is done in an informal way, it helps the employee to manage challenges, seize opportunities, handle situations, tackle scenarios, in the organization. Also, another importance of training is that it equips individuals with the necessary knowledge, the skills, and the ability to carry out their task. Training equips individuals with the necessary knowledge, skills, and the abilities to carry out their task. Now, what does this mean? This means that training is an avenue for you to be able to put into use in practical terms things that you have learned over time, either in the formal institution or in self-taught, self-learning. and whatever form of learning, exposure or observation. Training helps you to gather all this together and turns it into the practical use of knowledge, practical use of skills, practical use of abilities for such employees. Also, training serves to attract employees to companies, engages them, and promotes retention. So, some organizations' key goal or some organizations' value is the amount of training they offer to their employees. So you see some employees not going to a company not because of the money, but because of the amount of exposure the company will expose them to in terms of training. I have seen some organizations that relatively their pay is good, but along the line, the kind of training the employee will have gone through in a period of 2 years is worth more than what the company would have paid them in 5 years. So the company invests in training, both internal and external, both the ones they have to do nationally, locally, or the ones they have to travel out to. Take a picture of some oil companies or some multinationals. Their employees are often sent on courses, on trainings overseas and outside of the company, not because of they are interested in just increasing the employees' morale or knowledge, but that is a value that the company has to the employees. So this in turns foster retention among the employees because when the employees say, okay, I cannot get this money from this organization, but this training that I do not have the money to do, they can send me over a period of 2 years. And then after that 2 years, the employee can make a decision to move on to the next level of their career, either with the organization or with another organization. Training also helps to create a competitive advantage. So, as I've said, when organizations send their employees for trainings, whether internally or externally, it allows the employee or the organization to be able to position themselves in a competitive edge. The employees can stay in among their colleagues and say, okay, yes, this is what we do, and this is how we do it. So the employee has the ability to put the company at a competitive edge. Now, we have different components of learning. Learning and development is a subset of training. And basically, in an organization, anything that has to do with learning is in relation to the human capital. So, whether you are training, you are learning, whatever form, it is mostly targeted at the human capital resources of the organization. And this is not because of anything else. It is to improve performance of the organization and for the company to be able to reach their goals, as we have said earlier. The more capacity that the employees of a company has, the faster the organization is able to reach its goals. So learning in relation to the human resource uh, aspect of the organization fosters improved performance among the employees and helps the organization to reach its goal faster. Now, there are various ways that this training can come into play. There are various ways that this training can come into play. It can come in a form of a formal training. It can come in a form of informal learning or informal training, or it can also come in the form of knowledge management. Now, if formal training or employee development, that is the part where you have to go through a structured learning environment, going through a structured learning environment. And what is happening in that case is there you most likely have a classroom settings or a training room setting. You have a facilitator in front doing the training, and then everybody learning what or discussing and talking about the training. That is a formal training setting. Now, this type of training setting is limited to some aspects because in that case, most times you are going through the theoretical aspect of learning. You are going through the theoretical aspect of learning. So, in most times, does not turn round to give the amount of value that the employee needs to be able to divert into their day-to-day activities. So the formal training most likely is in theory, mostly comes in theory, and then the value is not much because at that point, converting the theory to practical use most times is not done. Now, the informal learning in this case is most times hands-on. We have seen situations where we have seen cases of interns or what we call OJT, the on-the-job training. This type of training are informal training. So in this case, you are doing the practical aspect of the training. So it is not necessarily in a structured environment. It is not necessarily in a structured learning environment where you have a facilitator in front and then the students sitting and listening. In most times, in most cases, this informal learning comes as a say and do. The teacher or the instructor is showing the students or the employees how to carry out those things. So this one applies more to interns and new hires who are going through on the job training. So the informal learning is mostly more practical than theory, while the formal training is more theory than practical. Now, the third aspect, the third component of learning, which is the knowledge management, here, what happens is the continuous management of the knowledge that has been acquired. So, in this situation, what happens is that the employee is advised or put in a situation where they upgrade their knowledge, where they upgrade what they have learned. And in that case, it does not have to be either a formal training or an informal training or informal learning method. It can be just a personal refresher for the employee to be able to refresh their memory on the knowledge that they have. So in this case, they are doing more of updating what they have learned rather than learning new things. All right. Okay, so now we are looking at, all right. So as we are saying, the key components of learning include learning, human capital, training, informal learning, explicit knowledge, tacit knowledge, and knowledge management. But the key things that we need to know in this component is that everything sums up to increase or to improve the capacity of the employee. So whether it is in a learning format or whether it is in a training format or it is in an informal training format or it is uh, knowledge management, the goal is to be able to improve the capacity of the employee. So in learning, here the purpose, the aim is to acquire knowledge, skills, competence, attitude, or behaviors that can influence the performance of the employee on the job. So the purpose of training or the purpose of learning varies per time. The purpose of learning depends on what what analysis has been done, why the learning need to take place. But the goal is to acquire knowledge or skills or some form of competence or attitude or behavior. Now, we also have the human capital. Under the human capital, here, the goal is to advance the skills, increase the knowledge, have an understanding of the system and creativity, while also motivating the employee to deliver high quality service. So, in this case, the human capital components of learning is to increase the knowledge, advance the skill, understand systems and creativity, while motivating the employee to deliver high quality services. And training, what this does is that it facilitates job related competencies, knowledge, skills, or behavior development. So when we say, okay, we are going for a training or we are sending an employee on a training, the purpose is to facilitate job related. Now, when we say training now, you see that we nail it down and we narrow it down to job related. So this case, when we're talking about the learning, we just talked about acquiring knowledge. So it means that the learning does not necessarily have to be or has to be related to the job. But in the case of training, in this case, we are saying the facilitator is trying to help the employee to develop some skills that are related to the job that needs to be done, or some competence or some knowledge that is needed for the job to be able to be get for the job to be able to get done. Now, also, it is focused on the future. That includes whether the person is taking a formal education or is taking up different job scenarios or job experiences, or the person is forming new relationships and and experiences or assessment. So all this is towards a perceived end, towards a perceived end for the employee to be able to carry their job effectively. And also, it can either be formal or informal, as we have said, and it is most times developed and organized by the company or the organization. So, in this case, because it is directly related to the job that needs to be carried out, it is the company that most times runs it. Now, another thing that we need to understand is that an employee can go for a training process or for a training program without it being that it is the organization that organizes or that sponsors it. For example, this human resource in practice training is an external training for those people who are on the job. This course is being facilitated by an external body, but it is needed for you to be able to perform optimally in your job as an HR, or to be able to transition to that role as an HR. So, but when it comes to trainings that are job related, it is in most cases facilitated by the organization and organized by them. All right. Informal learning, as we have said, is learner initiated. So this kind of training that you are taking is categorized or can be categorized as informal training because it is the learner that initiates this kind of training, this kind of learning. They want to they want to upgrade their knowledge, they want to upgrade their capacity, they want to upgrade their skills. So the learner initiatives. Most times, I am not sure any of you taking this course, you are mandated by your organization to take it. It is you that desire in your heart that, okay, I want to do better in this role. I want to be able to perform this role better. Let me look for a course in HR that I can take. And then you are here. So informal learning is learner initiated. It occurs without a trainer or instructor, as you have said. In this case, it is not mostly in a structured environment where you have an instructor leading the class and then the students responding. So in this situation, it is informal. And like I said, it is mostly practical rather than theory. Another thing is that it is motivated by intent to develop because it is the employee that decides to go on the journey. It is initiated, it is inspired by the need to develop a particular skill or a particular experience or a particular knowledge. So most times, informal learning is motivated by the intent to develop. The employee desires to do better in their job, but there's no opportunity of a training from the organization. So they take the initiative to go source for one by themselves and handle it and take it out. And like I said, it does not occur in a formal learning setting. So it takes different form. It takes different form. And the timing, the length, the duration is all controlled by the employee. So you determine the number of hours you want to spend, you determine how long you want to use to study the course, and all these things can be determined by the employee to say, okay, I want to spend 3 months to get this thing. I need 3 months to get this skill. I need 3 months to get that knowledge. And the employee can set time. Another thing is that it is not as it is not compulsory. So the employee can set the time to make it as flexible as possible for them to be able to combine the training and also their work activities. All right. Explicit knowledge. That's has to do with well documented, easily articulated, and easily transferred from one person to another. So in this case, it is more like a formal training. It is more like a formal training where the employee is being tutored by somebody who is an expert in the field. And in that case, the person has prepared a module where they take them in a step by step process of how to carry out an activity or a task. And in this case, it is mostly done in the case of knowledge transfer. And this kind of training are mostly formal. They are mostly carried out in a formal training environment. And then we have the tacit knowledge. In this case, knowledge based on employees' individual experiences. Now, these kind of experiences are difficult to quantify. You cannot put a value on such kind of experience. You cannot quantify, okay, I have done this before. You can only say, I have done this before because yes, you have gone through it, but you cannot quantify the extent to which it is applicable to the job that is at hand. And in this case, it is a result of the informal training. So, for example, this course that you are taking now, because it is not approved or because it's not sanctioned by the organization, by your organization, and because it's flexible and all that, when you get to your workplace, you can only say, "Oh, I took a course in human resource management." It's called HRiP. And then that knowledge cannot be easily quantified. It can only become quantifiable through the output of your job. So if before you embark on this training, your performance is around 40, and then after the course, your performance doubled and you are performing at 80%. Now, the organization can quantify, okay, that training really has an effect on this because it has improved the job quality, the job deliverables of the guy from 40 to 80%. So that is when it can only be quantified. But in the real sense of it, the uh, the value of tacit knowledge cannot be easily quantified, and it is usually from knowledge gained from informal training. And then knowledge management is structures, tools, systems that have been put in place to improve the creation and sharing of knowledge. So in most organizations, or don't let me say most organizations, in most technology organizations, we have something that is called knowledge base. And the knowledge base, what it does is that it for the employee, it gives them the information to know about anything that pertains to the company, either the company's product and services, or the company's policy, or structures, or system. And then for the external employee, I mean, the external customers, it has things like support, customer care, and the like. So some organizations have what they call the knowledge base, where this information are stored for you to be able to update your knowledge over time. I remember when I was in telecommunication industry, where uh, I was in the customer care section. What we used to do, what they call uh, OJT, on the job training, and we do this almost every 2 weeks. Why? Because the company releases new products often. So when a new product is released, you go to the knowledge base, take an hour from your day, go to the knowledge base, study everything that needs to be studied, and then after some days, you are allowed to write an exam based on what you have studied. And that tells the organization your output, your result tells the organization whether you are familiar with that product or not. So these components that we have talked about are, are the things that makes up learning and development. Now, a particular one is not superior to the other. A particular component is not in any way superior to the other. Rather, they all work together. The informal, the explicit, the tacit, the formal, knowledge management, all these work together to form a whole, and none is superior to the other in in any particular order. So they are all complementing each other to be able to help the employee to deliver optimally in his job. Thank you.